Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Chucky Season 3. I feel like Chucky Season 3 missed the mark in a huge way. This is when Don Mancini goes too far over the edge of camp and humor because this season was just like silly. And just like season 2. And that really sucks because I became a Chucky fan because of this show. I said before, I never watched the Chucky movies growing up because I wasn't allowed. And then when I got older, I just forgot. And there really was no streaming, so I could never just go back and watch. But with the start of this show in season 1, I became very intrigued with the lore of Chucky. So I decided to go back and watch the original movies and like the rebooted movie and stuff like that. I have now seen everything Chucky from like the original what is it, like 7 movies, and then the reboot movie, and then all 3 seasons of this show. And while I have like mixed feelings with some of the movies, this and that, the whole Chucky franchise, the Child Play franchise, is really cool. You know what I'm saying? And it's all started because of this show that got me into it. But Don Mancini says, he likes camp and like horror. Okay, fine, but just don't go too far over the camp. And with the movies, he started to go a bit campy with the 4th and 5th movie. 'Cause, the first 3 were just straight up like slasher movies and stuff. They were dark, they was gritty. But in the 90s, when horror movies started to become kind of sillier and goofier and lame and everything, he decided to make 2 of his entries very campy. This killed the franchise for a long time. Then he came out with what was it? The 6th and 7th movie on direct to DVD. And it restarted the franchise and got people's interest again because he went back to the dark and grittiness of it. Then, of course, there was the reboot, and then there was this television show. And while he did good at first with the first season, by the second season, things started to get a little campy. It was still interesting, but it just got overly silly. Then you get to this season, and this season feels kind of pointless because the whole thing about this season is that Charles Lee Ray, Chucky, is finally about to die. He's old. His voodoo demon god person doesn't want to make him transfer his soul into another body no more, and he's finally gonna die. This should have been great closure on the Chucky franchise. But in the back of your head, you kind of knew that there was no way he was going to let this dude die. He loves this franchise way too much. And so it makes this season completely pointless and everything. And a lot of stuff in this season was very pointless. And you gotta stop and ask yourself. One of the things that made this pointless was and I hate to say it, the trio. Seriously, why were they in this season? Their stories seem to have concluded in season 2 until that twist ending with Caroline turning evil, being brainwashed and everything. So, of course, that made you think, oh, okay, so now the trio's going to be in season 3. Cool. Until season 3 starts and the trio is really nowhere to be found. Because now you're dealing with the Collins family, who lives in the White House because their father is the president. So then it's kind of like, oh, are you shifting to a new family and everything? But then you see the trio start to pop up and they're just kind of inserted in there. They're kind of just crammed in there with no real purpose other than Lexi trying to find her sister. And this starts to be a problem because now it's kind of well, what the heck is Devin and Jake gonna do, because they're kind of just there. Also, now Jake looks completely different. He's all buff and ripped and muscular, and he's no longer that dorky person he used to be in the other two seasons. So this starts to be conflict because, okay, they're still trying to have him act like a dorky person, but he's all ripped and muscular now. It doesn't fit. It's like trying to get like a football jock and trying to have him act like the nerd who makes science projects and stuff. And it just doesn't work. And Devin is literally just there. Like, he is just there to be a love interest and not an actual character, as they've been trying to build his character up for the past two seasons. The first season, he was kind of like a love interest, but kind of like this creepy kid, and you didn't know if he was going to be good or bad. Then it turns out he's good. You know, he's continuing his relationship with Jake is kind of hindered because the foster parents don't like that kind of stuff because they're two gay guys and everything. And then they started to have conflict in season 2. So, but then by season 3, everything's just rosy because now they're back to being a couple again and stuff. And then there's the whole Lexi thing where it's kind of like she had pretty good growth and development in the first two seasons, because in the first season she was just a bad, rude, nasty girl who you wanted to see die. But then they kept her along and they redeemed her. But then they showed she had a drug problem, and you know, she generally cares about Jake and like Devin, but they are off in their own little world, and it causes her to be lonely, and it causes her to do drugs more. Then they killed her new friend in the second season. So then in the third season, it's kind of like, okay, what is she going to do? Oh, okay, she's going to look for her sister, which technically she does, in just some of the most bizarre kind of ways ever. Like her thirst trapping videos of her trying to find her sister was weird and bizarre. They have overly sexualized this character ever since season 1. And she's so young, not only just the character, but the actress as well. She has, like, till this day, I think she still has not even turned 18 yet. I think she's still 17. And they keep overly sexualizing this one character. Then, to make it even worse, she just gets into a relationship with the president's son just so she can find her sister. But then, of course, she ends up falling for him in real life. Well, in the show real life, that is. And it's just kind of like, what is the purpose of her character this season? She should have been out looking for her sister and actually legit looking for her and stuff. And I just felt like the trio was just pointless this season. And it has to do with who exactly is the main protagonist of this franchise now. Because originally, here's my thing, right? If anybody's going to defeat Chucky, it needs to be Andy, period. It started with him in the first 3 movies. It needs to end with him. And sadly, the actor just, I think he's retired and just no longer wants to act, but came back to do guest appearances on this show because he's part of that franchise. But he's nowhere to be found this season. And I believe he just had a cameo of Chucky pretending to kill him, but it was just a dream sequence, as we all know. And so he's nowhere to be found this season. I just find it odd that both him and Cal have spent their entire adult life tracking down every Chucky doll and destroying it to make sure there's no soul in it, just for them to now give up because they had their happy ending at the end of season 2, even though it was a lot of craziness that happened in season 2 with those two. And it's just kind of like one of those things where it's just like he should be the main protagonist to get rid of Chucky, because it all started with him. Like, his whole life has been turned upside down because of Chucky. He no longer has a mom. He no longer has foster parents. He's constantly just out for revenge, you know? But then they wrote him out of the 4th movie, and then in the 4th and 5th movie, they just brought in random protagonists in both entries and stuff. Then they did the same thing in the 5th movie. No, it wasn't. No. The 6th movie. But then he was still around for the sixth and seventh movie. It shows that he can't live a normal life because he's too busy tracking down these dolls. And apparently, he has a Chucky head, dismembered head, that he tortures, which appears to be Chucky Prime, which I'll get into that a little bit later. So then it went from him being the protagonist to just a bunch of random people who never showed up again until that Nico. And people really started to like Nico in the sixth and seventh movie. Like, she's even tied to Charles Lee Ray in the past because he's the one who shot her mom and caused her to be paraplegic. So she has ties to him, and they decide, okay, we're gonna like shift focus from one protagonist to another and make this the main person, which started to be cool at first until the show came up because Chucky's soul is inside her, so they brought her in for the first season, and of course the actress is related to the actor who voices Chucky, and so she did a phenomenal job playing like a 20-year-old Charles Lee Ray, and then like she was still Nico slash Chucky with the soul in her, and that was really cool until they decided to chop her legs off. Then by season 2, she's a prisoner, and then they decide to chop her arms off. They have literally ruined this character because they just kept going there and going there and going there. And it's to the point now where this character just wants revenge, like zooming around in a wheelchair with metal arms and everything and wanting revenge on Tiffany because Tiffany tortured the crap out of her and made love to her and stuff against her will. And it's just kind of like, then it shifts the focus from her onto the trio. And the focus got shifted onto the trio in the television series. So I felt like the television series should have been its own continuity. They should have ended it with like the movies and just have Chucky win or whatever, being in Nico's body or whatever. But then when they brought Nico and all them on over to the movies, the TV show, things just got very convoluted. And they should have handled this with better care. You know what I'm saying? Because now you got like 3 sets of protagonists and they've all lost. Which, okay, if you wanted Chucky to win, fine, but just do it in a better way. And then there is Chucky himself, who have felt the effects of the camp. In the first 3 movies, it was just a straight up slasher horror movie with him being dark, gritty. Yeah, he was funny because of the stuff he says, but like he was just a straight up nasty dude. Then you get to the 4th and 5th movie, and he's just kind of campy, silly now and everything. And he's a slightly bit nicer or whatever, but not really. And then they realized, okay, look, this killed the franchise. We gotta like reinvent him again. So then when they brought him back for that of the 6th and 7th movie, they brought him back to his old nasty ways of him being evil and just straight up killing people. And they even brought in the continuity of all the other movies that came before it, with his face being scarred and everything like that and stitched up. And so like, and that's why he covered his face and looked pudgy in like, the 6th movie and stuff like that. But then by like the 7th movie, we realized that the stitched up face, scarred up face of Chucky remains that with Andy. And he's been torturing it. But then here's the problem with all of this. Who the heck is Chucky Prime? It's one of those things that fans honestly cannot decide on, because now with that of the 7th movie and the entirety of the television series, it is overly confusing, because like we assume Chucky Prime went inside Nico, and we assume that Nico and Chucky Prime was in the television series when they showed up in season 1. But if that's true, then who the heck does Andy have, like, who he's torturing? You would think scarred up version would be Chucky Prime, but then in that version, I can't remember what happened in the 7th movie. I think he might have transferred himself into like a doll or like that little girl or something. But anyways, it got overly confusing because the Chucky you saw in season one, you assume was Chucky Prime until you know for a fact that no, Andy should have had Chucky Prime. But then what about Nico Chucky? Is that Chucky Prime? So I honest to God don't know because the rules of their voodoo have just been all over the place. In the first three movies, the rules that they had in voodoo was just simple. Once he transferred his soul from his human body into the doll, he would start to become human after a while. And he has to transfer his soul into the body of the first person that saw him, like, move about as a doll, which was Andy. That was the premise for the longest time until like the third movie when he tried to transfer his soul, I think, into that black kid. And I think it's just because, that was a new body he was in. And so he was able to transfer his soul into that new kid. Okay, fine. But then you get to the fourth and fifth movie and things just get kind of crazy with like the rules. Now the rules have changed with no explanation. Then you get into the television show. I was about to say television show. The television show. And then all of a sudden there's like multiple rules of voodoo, and because there's like a book for like voodoo for dummies, and so now it's kind of like, okay, they're expanding on that, which wash away the original rules. Okay, fine. And he put his souls in like over 50 dolls and everything, and maybe even more than that, and it just kind of becomes convoluted at this time. Cool when you think there's gonna be tons of like 50, 100 dolls taking over like the world and killing people, but when they don't do that because they don't have the budget for that, and then they kill off the majority of the dolls except for like maybe 6, then it becomes kind of pointless. They got too ambitious, but realized, oh wait, we ain't got the budget for that. And so then in the second movie, some of them dolls survived, but now all these different versions of Chucky have like different personalities, the dolls and everything. And it's like, how? How do they all have different personalities when they're based on the soul of the same person? Yeah, they live different lives, but it shouldn't turn them that differently. And then there was Nice Chucky, who gets on my nerves. And, it just started to become too overly silly with the general, the buff Chucky, the nice Chucky. And it's just kind of like, who the heck is who? And where the heck is Chucky Prime? Was he in that, like, Tiffany doll the entire time in season 2? Like, seriously. It just gets, like, so confusing. And then you get the third season, where now he's able to make blood come from walls and ceilings, and it's like, who are you, Slappy? Like from Goosebumps or something? Like, it's just too much. Just have one set of rules and go by that. And then you got Tiffany doing all this voodoo stuff, and it becomes overly silly and everything in a movie that's already silly and confusing, or a franchise, I should say. Now, one of the things I felt that was great in season 1 is when you got a backstory on Charles from when he was a child to a teenager to a young adult, and to the events that led him to become Chucky the doll. It was great seeing that backstory and seeing he's always just been pure evil. But then you get the second season and they kind of ruin that by saying, oh no, wait, the reason why he is the way he is isn't because he's just evil. His therapist groomed him and everything to be that way. And it's like, no, he's been that way since he's been a child, and he killed his mom to impress the actual real serial killer. And then he's just been nuts ever since. But no, now we're supposed to say he's been groomed by the therapist. And this is a trend I've been seeing going around in modern Hollywood, where you have an established male character that's been around for a couple of decades, but then all of a sudden there's now this brand new female character who apparently has groomed the male character into becoming who they are. It happened in the Bad Boys series with Mike being groomed by this new mysterious character in the newer movies who's now his baby mama. Then in the Batwoman television series on the CW, it turns out that there was this woman, the Joker's assistant, that's actually been grooming him to be this person that he is and help. And she's the one who makes all his stuff and comes up with the ideas and stuff like that. Now they're doing the same thing with Chucky. And I could care less if it's a male or female grooming them, but the simple fact is these are characters that's been established for decades. And now all of a sudden there's a person who's mysterious and brand new who's been grooming them to be the person that they are. It's just weird and odd. But when it comes to them being female, that's just modern Hollywood because they're trying to give female characters more something to do in a franchise series. But it's like it's not working and everything. And it's a weird pattern that's been going on for the longest time where it's always like the female character grooming this male character who's been around for decades to be the person that they really are. Another thing that ruined this season and the entire franchise is recycling characters that have died. So they keep recycling actors and actresses to play like new characters. Devon Sawa has played so many characters in a television series that it's ridiculous. First, he was Jake's father, then Jake's uncle. Then he was the pastor in season 2. Then in the 3rd season, he is the president. Then he is the president's look-alike and everything. It's overly silly. And same with the actress who was like the nun in season 2, but now the president's wife in season 3. Now I don't know who she was in season 1. And it's just kind of like, oh, and then there's the vice president. He was Lexi's father in season 1, and now all of a sudden, he's the vice president. And it's just kind of like, look, this franchise is silly enough as it is and confusing. Why make it overly silly and confusing by recycling actors and actresses? It was a technique they did back in the olden days, like 40 years ago. And they used to do that a lot on Hercules and Xena in the 90s. But television has stopped doing that now. Now if they do it, they bring a person in for a guest role. And if they like that person, they'll bring them back as a series regular or a main cast member. But they don't recycle a lot of characters no more. Or actors and actresses. So I wish they would really stop that. And now we get the doll maker himself, a recycled character. I think he's from Seed of Chucky. Not Bride, but Seed of Chucky. He was like the photographer, then he ended up dying and stuff. So they recycled this actor. And it turns out that he is now the original doll maker of the Good Guy dolls. And it all started because somebody killed his son, Tommy. They don't say who killed him, but you can probably assume it was Chucky and everything. And so he designed the Good Guy dolls apparently to look like his son Tommy, who just happened to have red hair or reddish brown. No, has red hair. I think, what was it? I could have sworn back in the day they tried to give Chucky or Charles like reddish hair in season 1, but it's been brown ever since. So anyway. So they give like, the look and appearance of the Good Guy doll, Tommy, which is why, his name was Tommy in the movies before Chucky took over. But here's the problem. He says this is the prototype. The prototype looks exactly like the Chucky doll from the television series. In every incarnation, Chucky appearance changes, either in his cheeks or facial expression or his hair. In the original movie, he had a more round face and he had more of a short hair. This long shaggy hair is what they gave him for the TV series to look more hip and cool and everything and less threatening. So shouldn't the prototype look more similar to the first Chucky doll in the first movie? How can you screw that up and this is your own franchise and stuff? And why couldn't the prototype look a little bit differently than the first doll? Because it's a prototype of all things. But it turns out this doll maker is equally evil, has kept Caroline the entire time, And not only that, but he knows voodoo as well. Now, come on, that's a stretch. And of course, he turns the trio. I believe they're called marionette dolls or something like that, or puppet dolls or something. And it's just kind of like, how did he do this off screen? And that's what happened. It happened off screen to be like, oh my God, isn't that a shocking twist? When Nico discovers that the trio have been turned into little CGI looking dolls and everything. And they just happen to look exactly the way Devin, Lexi, and Jake do. And it's just kind of like, no, this is going too far into too much silliness and stuff. And the fact that he knows voodoo as well and he's evil as well, it's just too much. It's just too much. And I see now why this show got canceled, on top of them having, not enough money for the budget and having to renegotiate people's salaries, and with the actors strike coming in and everything and the writers strike. Because this season was split into 2 years. The first 4 was in 2023, and then the last 4 was in 2024. And this is what they come up with. The whole Caroline story arc is the biggest missed opportunity of them all. This whole time she's been with the doll maker, creepy because she's a little girl. And why do they keep putting this ruby red lipstick on her? She's a little girl and they keep making her dress not too grown, like in a nasty kind of way, but adult mature, like, you know what I'm saying? And they keep putting this lipstick on her, which is just bizarre. But it's like after the second season, the third season should have been cake. Chucky has now finally have somebody who's willing to be evil with him, who he's brainwashed. He did it with Junior, but Junior kept having too many, I don't know if I want to do this type thing. But Caroline was just like all in for some bizarre reason, believing Tiffany's her real mom and everything. And, turning against Lexi. This should have been the freaking third season where the trio is trying to save Caroline and trying to unbrainwash her while Caroline is doing all this evil stuff. But no, they had her in the beginning of the season for like the first episode, maybe 2. Then they get rid of her after that. And then all of a sudden she's back and now she's read everything there is about voodoo and can do like the transference of souls and this and that. And now she knows how to drive and she can barely see over the steering wheel because this is supposed to be funny and everything. And her saying, I'm too young for this shit and everything. And it's just kind of like, oh, that's so funny. And it's just such a waste opportunity. And I think one of the reasons why she wasn't in this season that much, just like she isn't in the other season, I think it's because of her age. And there's like, a time limit for when child actors can act. And they do film at night, it appears, and everything. And children actors aren't allowed to act at night, like past a certain time. So that's one main reason. I think another reason, not to be harsh, but it's just like the actress is still new to acting and hasn't had that many projects. And sometimes her line delivery can be a little flat. Like in the beginning of this season, it was fine. But then once she showed back up at the end of the season, it's almost like she didn't care and didn't give like no emotion or feeling with her acting. It was just kind of like she just stood there and just said her line and then that's just it. Almost like she just didn't care, or who knows what, you know what I'm saying? So maybe they felt like, if her acting isn't where it needs to be, then there's no point in centering the whole season around her. But that would have been cake to have the trio try to save her and go back to the dark grittiness. Not this whole White House stuff. Like, that was just like stupid. And it brought in more of the stupid camp. So because Chucky was giving I think what was a baptism in season 2, one of the souls were, this pissed off Damballa. So because of that, he's no longer going to keep Chucky immortal to transfer his soul into another body. This causes him to grow old and he is literally dying. So we're stuck with the old Chucky this entire season. And so it's like he's finally feeling defeated. He's depressed. but he thinks to himself, okay, maybe if I kill like a bunch of people and everything, this will help. So he just starts going on a murder spree, and there's all these elaborate murders and stuff. And it's just kind of hokey, elaborate murders. And then he realized, okay, I need to go to the place, a house that like has the most death in it like ever, and he thinks that's the White House. So he's not there to take over the country, which is what a lot of the ads and advertisement and commercials and stuff were about. But it's not that. He just wants to kill as many people as possible and shoot off a bunch of nukes and everything, which is silly all in its own. So he pretends to be the dead son of the president. And that's how he tricks like the little boy. But I don't know how the little boy thought that was him when he looks as old as granite. But anyways, and once again, it's another recycled character. It's the little boy who we've been seeing in the past 2 seasons. And so um, so as he's going around killing people, the White House are like, hey, look, we can't let nobody find this out. Let's get the fixer named Pierce, who's played by Gil Bellows from Ally McBeal. That's so awesome. But Pierce is just an odd person. He's just there to cover everything up, and he does in such a sinister way that he's even willing to blow everybody up just to keep the secrets. It's silly and it's ridiculous and everything. And so as the president dies and the first lady's freaking out and the son is in love with Lexi and the little boy's son thinks his brother's inside a doll, it's just overly silliness and stuff. So somehow Chucky's able to get like the nuke codes and everything. He sets off a nuke, and it's like nothing big happened. I think it hit like a snowy land in the Arctic and everything. And it was a pointless, stupid storyline. But then it got interesting. So that's it. Chucky actually dies and his soul goes into the underworld and purgatory. And so now, he's talking to Damballa. And the actor who plays him, I forgot how old this dude is now. Because I still think of him when I saw him in Star Trek Voyager and in the Urban Legend movie. I didn't even, his voice sounds so young. I forgot this dude is so much older now. So he's in the underworld and he makes a deal with Damballa. So he goes around haunting the White House as a ghost and, making blood come down. And they got one of those, people who think they can talk to ghosts and everything. And it's more overly silliness. The whole blood out the ceiling and wall it was overkill. It was like something out of the Evil Dead or something like that. And it doesn't make sense for everything that's going on in this franchise. But hey, whatever. And so Jake's all like, hey, maybe I can go to the underworld and find out where Caroline is and blah, 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 and all this other crap, which is a stupid storyline all on his own. So he's there, and we get to see every version of Chucky, child, doll, so that's kind of cool. And so he, of course, runs after the good Chucky, and good Chucky is really just still evil because of who he is. And so he distracted Jake long enough to where Jake couldn't get back into his body. And so then all of a sudden Charles is in Jake's body, which is hilarious, by the way. Especially when he starts beating up this one dude. He's like, man, Jake is ripped. But here's the thing that don't make no sense, right? While the actor who played Jake was hilarious, how did people not know something was up with Jake? First of all, Jake didn't even talk like himself. He would introduce Devin. Hey, this is Devin, my homosexual boyfriend and everything. And I'm totally okay with that because I'm a homosexual as well. And it's just like Devin's just smiling down like, yeah. And I'm just like, well, hold up, dude. Why would Jake even say something like that? And even Lexi believed that was Jake and didn't know it was Chucky. He constantly was cussing like a South Park sailor and everything. Like literally, he was cussing like Eric Cartman in that one movie and everything. And Jake doesn't cuss like that. Oh no, better yet, he was cussing like Deadpool. And Jake doesn't talk like Deadpool. And not only that, but Chucky doesn't even talk like Deadpool. Like, it's weird. Chucky has been around these kids. He knows how they are. He should be able to play a good Jake, but he's not able to. Instead, it's over the top and silliness, and even Chucky doesn't talk that way. Like, why all of a sudden is Chucky talking this way now? So, of course, they tricked them into going to like the doll maker, and Caroline transferred the soul. So now Jake is back in his own body. So that was a missed opportunity. They should have had, if they was gonna get a fourth season, have like Chucky be Jake the entire time. Why? It's not that hard to write, Don. It's not. You got so many missed opportunities, dude. You set that up perfectly to now finally get the trio something to do again, and you ruined it by having Chucky doll. Like, I like being a doll, which is something he said in like I think the fourth movie or something like that. And he just likes the idea of being a doll because the simple fact he can get away with tons of murders and stuff. Now, I haven't mentioned Tiffany at all. And once I said, like I said this before, give Jennifer Tilly her flowers. She does an amazing job playing Tiffany Valentine. She's kind of like the Harley Quinn to that of Chucky. However, in this whole show's continuity, they make it seem like she's the one in charge. She's the one coming up with stuff. She is the one. She even admitted she's the one who called the police on Chucky, which caused him to get shot up in like the mall and everything in the first movie. I get you want to elevate this character and make her into like a girl boss, but she's taken away from what makes Chucky Chucky and everything. And so the fact that like she's the one who called the cops to set him up kind of like pissed me off when I found that out a long time ago. But like she's the one who's always making the plans and the contingency plans, and Chucky's just there along for the ride. And it should be the complete opposite, like it was in the movies and stuff. But anyway, I do like how she's smart and a mastermind, but I don't like how she's the boss of like Chucky pretty much and everything. But this whole season she's been locked up. And while behind bars, it's the most silliest thing ever. Her whole jail cell is decked out in all the stuff she loves. She dresses in her dresses and her high heels because she's brainwashed everybody in her voodoo stuff. And it became overly silly and overly crazy. And you finally think she's going to get her comeuppings, only for her to escape because she pretty much voodooed everybody in the jail, except for the sniper and everything. And so here she is running in high heels, making her escape. And it's like the sniper is killing other people left and right, but he can't kill the dude who's protecting her. And it's just like crazy silliness and everything. Only for her to meet back up with Chucky and the doll maker, and she transfer her soul into a Belle doll. So now she's back to being a doll, he's back to being a doll, and they're just making out. Because of course, Jennifer Tilly, her reputation is ruined now because of what Chucky's all been doing to them. And of course, she died, I think in season 2 and everything. And it shows that both her and Chucky love Gigi, Glenn, and Glenda. And it makes them softies, in my opinion, to love their child and everything. But here's the thing when it comes to like the whole Glenn and Glenda. In season 2, yes, the actress did a good job playing both roles, but Glenn is supposed to be played by a dude, and Glenda, of course, is supposed to be a dude, not supposed to be like a girl. But they both got like an actress to play both roles, but she did a good job, so whatever. My problem with the whole Glenn and Glenda thing, see, before season 2 came out, I hadn't seen Seed of Chucky yet. And so everybody kept making a big deal at the end of season 1 about the twins showing up. So I'm like, oh, this is going to be great and amazing. Then I finally did watch Seed of Chucky, and I realized Glenn and Glenda in their human form act completely different than the doll version of Glenn and Glenda, aka Gigi and stuff. I don't understand why the personality is so different, and I don't understand where the British accent disappeared. Because then once they went back into the doll, all of a sudden the voice is back, and like the accent is back, and the personality set is back. I don't get why, like, you know, when they was in like the soul of like two humans, they acted completely different and stuff. It would have been nice to explain, but of course this show didn't want to do that. And so I just felt like trying, like, if they really wanted to, like, impress me with the series, like I said before, the series should have been its own continuity, its own universe, or they should have just tied it into the first three movies and forget about everything else. Because I forget the girl in the, what was my movie? That's four and five, six. Okay, in the seventh movie, the girl in the sixth movie, the new little girl and everything, she disappears by the seventh movie because apparently she died and everything. And that was another missed opportunity as well to bring that actress back. And so I just feel like Don Mancini, while he makes good work and a great franchise, he gets too distracted by like the campiness of it all and the overall silliness of it all. And it's so convoluted in the continuity that where he should have just ended season three with Chucky dying and that's it. You know, Chucky had like a big long life of killing people, and now it's finally coming to an end. But like he said, he's gonna bring Chucky back in the movie form in one way or another. So now this storyline is gonna now continue into movie form. But will they just skip around like they did with the seventh movie? Because the little girl from the sixth movie, they just completely dropped her by the seventh movie in the television show. Will they do the trio like this? Who the heck knows? Will the trio even want to come back? Who the heck knows? You know, maybe this just end right now. I mean, Chucky and Tiffany are back in dolls. They're having fun. They got Caroline now. The protagonists have lost. Maybe they just end it on that note. You know what I'm saying? Alrighty. Well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.